So good evening, good morning, good afternoon. I'm not sure where you are in the world, but thank you so much and for joining us, and a huge big welcome to all of our guests and distributors. Thank you for joining us, guys, on this very special and important webinar. If you're wondering if this is being recorded, yes, absolutely it is. And if I can please ask everyone out there not to record it, not to even record the audio. We will do an official recording of this and we'll tidy it up and put it out there for you once done. So please, on behalf of Dr. Mark, I ask that you honor his request and don't record anything, but know that you will be given an official recording of this. Also, I just want to put out a disclaimer from our company. So we do never ever claim to cure, heal, prevent, or mitigate any disease. We're just merely talking about good advice on how to stay healthy. If you haven't met me before, my name is Charlotte Venter. I'm from the Sunshine Coast of Australia and have been working with this company and this product specifically now for just over 2 years. Our special guest today, if you don't know this, you are in for a treat with Dr. Mark Gordon from South Dakota, USA. He's been visiting Australia for the past 10 days or so, and he has graciously just completed a tour around Australia with us. We are in Perth at the moment, and Dr. Mark flies back to the States tomorrow. Now, friends, this guy is so full of knowledge that I just could not pass on a lost opportunity to ask him to help educate the people of our beautiful nation on good health. We are daily impacted by loved ones, family, friends, or even colleagues suffering from all sorts of health conditions. And these are often the most basic struggles, such as not sleeping well, having a lack of energy, or even suffering with aches and pains. And sometimes they're much more serious than those. The main reason for this webinar is to help you understand a concept in our body called oxidative stress. Now, oxidative stress affects every single person. You simply cannot avoid it. Even little babies are born with it. It is a very dangerous condition, and it is linked to over 260 different diseases. And that is why it is so important to learn about oxidative stress, what it does in your body, and how you can manage it. So Dr. Mark Gordon has known for decades about this negative effect of oxidative stress and it has on our bodies. And he's dealt with that daily for over 20 years, practicing as a cardiologist, saving people's lives. So Dr. Mark, thank you so much for the last time, or one more time, you're from us in Australia. Thank you so much for your time with us today. We sincerely appreciate all you've done, all you've taught us, and your willingness to share with our audience what has taken you over 2 decades, if not longer, to research and learn. We are very grateful for your knowledge, so thank you for being here tonight. So my first question, Doctor, is going to be, would you please share a little bit about your history as a cardiologist and what made you so aware of oxidative stress?
Well, I began medical school just like every other young adult who goes to medical school, and I had an interest in helping people, but I was really interested in prevention. And in medical school, in allopathic medical school, you're taught how to fix things after they're broken, diagnose the problem, and put in place a treatment plan, be that medications or surgery. But always in the back of my mind, I had an interest in prevention. And ultimately, I went and did a fellowship in anti-aging and regenerative medicine and learned a lot of different techniques to help people get to the point that they needed to have a cardiologist in the first place. And on that, I learned a lot about natural plant-based therapies, nutritional supplements, and so forth, and learned that the biochemistry of many of these plant-based compounds was actually the same as the pathways through which a lot of modern medications were. And so with that, I kind of had an aha moment, and I said to myself, you know, why don't we try some of these plant-based therapies or nutritional supplement therapies prior to using the toxic medications that so many people are put on by their allopathic physician? And so in the back of my mind, I knew that I wanted to do a preventive type clinic, but the problem was that doesn't make a lot of money. And when you're in a group of cardiologists that, you know, they want us to make a good income and they want us to contribute to the group, preventive medicine was just not going to be something that was going to do the job. So I was looking for a way to be able to do that. And about that time, I was asked to watch an ABC News story that was done back in 2005. And many of the people who were on this Zoom meeting probably have seen that. And that opened my eyes to this product called Protandim. And I watched the ABC investigative report. I went to PubMed. I read all this on Protandim. I already knew what oxidative stress was as a cardiologist. I knew that it was instrumental in the development of cardiovascular disease, both congestive heart failure and coronary disease, as well as many, many other conditions. And I knew that we didn't have any medications that treated the problem of oxidative stress. We had medications to treat in the form of, you know, cholesterol medications, high blood pressure medications, and so forth, but nothing that got to that root cause of oxidative stress. So I got very interested in Protandim. I got very interested in the NRF2 pathway as a result of that, and just have found that activating NRF2 can have so many beneficial effects in so many different areas.
Awesome. Wow. So, Doctor, can you, in layman's terms, explain to us what does oxidative stress mean? Like, how do we get it?
Oxidative stress is a byproduct of creating energy in our bodies. Our cells make energy in the form of ATP, and the byproduct of that process, or the exhaust or waste, is free radicals. Free radicals are toxic molecules that will damage any part of the cell that they bump into. And over the years that we're alive, these repeated hits to our cells from the free radicals do enough damage that they lead to all of the signs and symptoms associated with aging, as well as many of the health conditions associated with aging. And so, in layman's terms, what oxidative stress is rusting of the body from the inside out. And when we're young, our bodies do a very effective job at fighting those free radicals because we have a built-in antioxidant defense system. Our own cells make enzymes neutralize the free radicals before they can do damage and cause that oxidative stress. But as we age, we slowly lose the ability to create those antioxidant enzymes, and therefore the free radicals do more damage and the aging process sets in.
Okay, so it's all got to do with, you know, just the very stuff we need to live, right? Which is breathing is actually causing oxidative stress too. So, Doctor, that would be one of the reasons why we simply cannot avoid it, right? It's just everywhere.
Well, the aging process itself increases oxidative stress. And we live in a toxic environment that we're exposed to so many different things that we were never designed to be exposed to. So many pollutants, toxins, poisons, EMFs from cell phones, etc. And all of those things increase oxidative stress as well. So it's something we can't avoid. It's something that we're all exposed to. But we are learning that there are ways that we can minimize it.
Sure. Now, Doctor, what does it cause? What does it do in our bodies, and why is it important for us to reduce it?
Well, just about all of the health conditions that you know of that are associated with aging are linked to oxidative stress as the primary cause. So if you go into a doctor and you're, say, 70 years old and you find out that you've got heart disease, chances are that heart disease didn't start when you were 69. It probably started when you were in your 20s. And it was that slow, progressive oxidative stress damage that was occurring to your cells that led to that all of those years, and finally got to the point where it became clinically relevant, where you started to have symptoms from it and then sought medical attention. So what if we could go back and treat that thing before it got to the point where it was fully manifest as a disease?
Yeah. I love the story that you share about, you know, being on call as a cardiologist and, how you go out 2 o'clock in the morning to a 35-year-old having a heart attack. Would you mind sharing that story and sharing with our audience your aha moment?
As I had mentioned, I'd always been interested in prevention, but that kind of got put on the back burner with the day-to-day duties associated with being a cardiologist. And one night I was on call and a 35-year-old guy came in and he was having a heart attack. And so when somebody's having a heart attack, as a cardiologist, what you do is you take them to the cath lab, you do an angiogram, you find the blockage, you have, right? So that's exactly what we were doing. And as we were getting ready in the cath lab, I just had this aha moment and I said, 35-year-olds should not be having heart attacks. We need to do a better job at prevention. And that's really what launched me into doing all of my research into prevention and what led me ultimately to do the fellowship in anti-aging and regenerative medicine. And it really made me think that, you know, at least in America and probably here in Australia as well, we could do a lot better job at prevention if we could teach lifestyle changes, exercise, better nutrition, supplementation, and so forth.
So, doctor, were you taught any of that stuff in medical school? Were you taught about nutrition, and were you taught about oxidative stress and how that impacts heart health?
We were taught about oxidative stress and how it's a primary cause of not only heart disease, but many other health conditions, again, associated with aging. I mean, just about everything you can think of, from type 2 diabetes to neurologic conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, kidney failure, many types of cancer, etc., are all linked back to oxidative stress. So we were taught about that in medical school, but we weren't really taught to do anything about it. And in the one nutrition conference or one nutrition class that I had, one lecture on nutrition in 4 years of medical school, we had the instructor stand up and tell the entire class that the only thing that nutritional supplements did was gave you expensive urine.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, most allopathic physicians were taught the same thing. And that's why when you go to a doctor, if they're an allopathic doctor, an MD in the US, they will often, you know, poo-poo Protandim or any other nutritional supplement because they were taught that they don't do anything and they don't understand the biochemical pathways through which they work. And they haven't taken the time to actually sit down and research what these things can do.
Yeah, look, that's a common thing. We often speak to medical professionals and they've either never heard of it or they've really given it no second thought, which seems so bizarre because if it's such a big reason why people are getting sick, you'd think people would focus on that, especially the health professionals. So, Doc, explain to us, how did you find a method and what is this method of reducing oxidative stress? And you know, how did you trust it? Because there's so many people that come to you as a doctor, I can imagine, with their little magic pill or, you know, little magic snake oil or whatever. How did you find this and what made you really trust it?
As the cardiologist in town who was interested in prevention and knew a lot about nutritional supplements and plant-based therapies, I would have patients that would actually seek me out because that's what they were looking for. And they would oftentimes bring me, they had heard some new supplement that somebody told them that they should take. And they'd say, hey, Dr. Gordon, what do you know about this? Is this something good? Is this going to help me? And I would put every product that was brought to me to the same test. I would say, I don't know. Let's go and find out what science there is behind it. So I would sit down at the computer, go to pubmed.gov, which is the US National Institutes of Health website for medical research, and I would type in the name of the product. And 9.9% of the time, there was no research whatsoever. So I would go back to the person and I would say, you know, based on what I've seen, there is no research on this, so I can't make a recommendation about this particular product because without any research, I don't know if it's going to do anything for you. And believe me, there are plenty of companies out there that develop Me Too products trying coattails of success of some other product that does have science behind it and say, well, we're just like them because we work by the same pathway, blah, blah, blah. Well, without the research, how do you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I researched Protandim, I put it to the same test. I went to pubmed.gov, I typed in the term Protandim, And back in November of 2010, when I was first exposed to this, there were 7 published peer-reviewed scientific studies. And now we have 24 published peer-reviewed scientific studies. So I put Protandim to the same test, and I went to PubMed. I found the 7 published studies back in November of 2010. We now have 24. And when I looked at the places that were doing the research, they were very, top-notch universities in the United States, predominantly places like Texas Tech, Harvard, Ohio State, Louisiana State, big universities doing very, very good research. And it was the institutions that were doing and funding the research. It wasn't the. And so when I read these, I was like, oh my gosh, there's studies on skin disorders, or studies on heart disorders. There's all sorts of different studies out there. And obviously as a cardiologist, I really was interested predominantly in the heart studies. And as I was looking through those, there was one study in particular that was published in the journal Circulation, which is the scientific journal of the American Heart Association. And when I saw that, I said to myself, okay, this is not snake oil. This is not a scam company, because the American Heart Association is not going to publish research about snake oil. So at that point, I was all in. I said, this is a product that I want to take. I want to learn more about. I want to give it to some people that I know that have some significant health issues and see what happens.
Doctor, can you explain to us then this product? What is it, and exactly how does it work? How does it reduce this oxidative stress in your body? Has that actually been proven? Is there a study to show that, it has been proven that it does reduce oxidative stress?
Oxidative stress, as we mentioned, is linked to so many different conditions. And when I first heard about Protandim, I didn't know the pathway through which it worked. It works through this pathway called NRF2. I didn't know what NRF2 was when I first heard about it. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, why don't I know about this pathway? I'm a doctor. Shouldn't I know about this pathway? But what I found out was NRF2 was discovered in the mid-90s, which was after I had completed my medical school. And prior to Protandim, there had not been any products, either drugs or supplements, that were NRF2 activators that were used for anything. So there was really no reason why I would have heard about this pathway. So I didn't feel quite so dumb at that point. But my point is, if you go out and you talk to doctors and tell them to explain NRF2 to you, you're probably going to get the deer in the headlights look from them, because they're not the foggiest idea what you're talking about. So with that being said, when I first heard about Protandim, as I said, I didn't know the mechanism of action. The ingredients are green tea, turmeric, milk thistle, ashwagandha, and bacopa. And what was found, and this was actually published in the first scientific study on Protandim, was that combination of those 5 ingredients in the right ratio enhanced the effect 18 times over any one of the individual ingredients. So that was a big deal. But the pathway through which this works is called NRF2 or NRF2. NRF2 is a protein that's in every cell in your body, and when it gets turned on or activated, when something hits the cell that is a NRF2 activator, the NRF2 goes from the cytoplasm of the cell into the nucleus, and there it attaches to a very specific segment of DNA called the antioxidant response element. And then it turns on genes downstream on that strand of DNA. It either upregulates things or it downregulates things. And basically it upregulates the good stuff and it downregulates the bad stuff. So you get increased production of anti-inflammatory, anti-fibrotic, and antioxidant enzymes. And you get decreased production of pro-inflammatory and pro-fibrotic proteins. So that's the best of both worlds. So in the study, the first study that was done on Protandim, it was a human clinical trial, showed a 40% reduction in oxidative stress after 30 days of use, and that was in the US. And I had never seen any product, drug, or supplement that type of reduction in oxidative stress. That was a big deal. And to date, I still have not seen anything else on the market that can lower the oxidative stress to that level.
Wow, that's amazing. Dr. Mark, where can we find these studies? If a medical professional that's on here tonight wants to have a look at it, where do they go?
Just go to pubmed.gov, pubmed.gov. As I said, that's the National Institutes of Health website for medical research. And you can just type in Protandim into the search box and they will all pop up for you to read there.
Excellent. You know, one of our, I think you heard this story on the tour we've just done, one of our distributors works for some specialists, and the one guy specifically, she was telling him for months and months and months about Protandim and that he really should have a look. And he just said, yeah, whatever, I'm too busy. And the one day she just sort of in passing, she said to him, you do know that there's 24 studies on PubMed? And he just looked at her and he said, get me some straight away. So it just straight away, you know, for medical professionals, you know, that's credible, right? When you see a study on there, you know, it's credible.
Well, that's where doctors go to find out the latest research on whatever topic they have an interest in. So yeah, physicians know what that website is. You don't have to tell them. And I wasn't told actually to go there after I watched the ABC report. I just knew as a physician, that's where you go to check things out.
Excellent. Yeah, Dr. Mark, I've heard people say, well, I take turmeric and, you know, turmeric, if you go there's lots of studies on turmeric to prove that it does all sorts of stuff. And, you know, that's enough. I don't need your Protandim. What would you say on that?
Turmeric is great for anti-inflammatory effects, but the problem is it doesn't have by itself the NRF2 activation. And that's really where the power is in Protandim, is the NRF2 activation. So prior to them putting Protandim together with the 5 ingredients that are in it, they tested the ingredients individually. And individually, none of the ingredients really did very much at all as far as activating those antioxidant genes. But when they put the 5 ingredients together, as I mentioned, they had an 18-fold increase in activity. And that's really where the beauty of this is. And because of that synergistic effect, that's why we were able to get patents on the product, so we don't have to worry about somebody creating a generic version of this. So
Excellent.
obviously that's a good thing.
Mm. So in layman's terms, are we sort of saying that instead of taking antioxidants, when we take a Protandim, we make our own?
Correct. So there are 2 types of antioxidants. They're what we call direct antioxidants, and those are things like vitamin E, vitamin C, beta carotene, fruits, berries, juices, the things that you take in from the outside into your body. And those antioxidants will neutralize free radicals in a 1-to-1 fashion, meaning one antioxidant molecule will neutralize one free radical molecule. But indirect, and that's direct antioxidants. Indirect antioxidants are the ones that our own cells make in response to something. So for example, NRF2 activation turns on the production of superoxide dismutase, catalase, glutathione, and hundreds of other antioxidant enzymes. And these enzymes are significantly more potent at neutralizing the free radicals than the direct antioxidants that we take in from the outside. So these own enzymes, these own molecules that our cells make, these enzymes, can neutralize up to 1 million free radical molecules per of antioxidant enzymes. So it's not even in the same ballpark. So if you look at the research in the past, for example, on vitamin E, vitamin C, and beta carotene, and their ability to protect against the development of heart disease or cancer, none of the studies show any positive effect. And it's, I believe, because of how weak they are at neutralizing free radicals, because our own enzymes do a much, much more efficient job.
Excellent. Doctor, when you say neutralize a free radical, is it basically like it kills the free radical? It wipes it out?
Well, the free radical is a molecule that's trying to fill its outer shell with an electron. It's missing an outer shell. So for those of you that remember your chemistry, those are highly volatile molecules. And that's why they can cause so much damage. So basically what the antioxidant does, or the antioxidant enzyme, is it fills that shell with an extra electron and basically makes that molecule harmless, or makes it so it can't do damage to the cell.
Perfect. Now, do we need to help our children to reduce oxidative stress in their bodies? Do children suffer from this as well?
Children have oxidative stress, but at much, much lower levels than adults. So my recommendation, and this may differ from what you've heard from other people, but my recommendation is if a child is otherwise healthy, doesn't have any health concerns, health issues, they probably don't need this because they make enough of their own antioxidants. It's only people after the age of 20 that they start to lose the ability to make those enzymes. Now, if a child has a significant health condition that you believe may be related to oxidative stress, activating nerve 2 may be something to try to see if it might help with that particular condition.
Okay. Doctor, can you explain why does our body lose the ability of making its own antioxidants? You just mentioned just after the age of 20. So what happens to the body?
Well, that's a great question. I guess that's part of the pre-programmed aging process, that we slowly start to have less and less NRF2 activity. And with less and less NRF2 activity, the production of those enzymes goes down. So reactivating that NRF2 through nutritional supplementation can be a very effective way at getting those enzyme levels back up to what you had when you were 20 years old.
Is that why when we sort of hit the mid-20s or closer to 30, you start feeling the odd ache and pain? You just don't quite function the way you did when you were 20 or in your teens?
Well, certainly. I mean, most people who are in their 20s feel great and they don't have a care in the world health-wise, and they feel like they're going to live forever. So it's oftentimes difficult to convince them why they should take something like this. But for me, knowing what I know about oxidative stress and how it's an insidious process that starts in your 20s, really, and then continues until you have full-blown disease at some later point down the road. I wish I would have known about this when I was in my 20s, so I could have started taking it. Now, if you go back to some historical data on disease, particularly atherosclerosis, they have studies from the Korean War, American soldiers that died when they did disease on them. They already had the beginnings of atherosclerosis even as young as 18 years old. So we need to do something now to prevent that from becoming a full-blown problem down the road. While a person in their 20s may feel great, like they're going to live forever, there is oxidative stress going on in their body that's causing problems that they're not going to see for decades probably. But imagine if you could have started something like this back then.
Do you know, I've said that to my children so many times. I have a 24-year-old and a 21-year-old, and I so often say to them, I want to live to 150 so that I can see what happens to you guys, because my kids have been on it now for about 2 years, and they're both young. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to those generations. Yeah, Dr. Recently I had my cat at a vet, and I was just talking to the vet about, how quick my cat takes breaths. I don't know if you've noticed, but they really breathe a lot faster than humans. And the vet was saying to me that the cat actually breathes 7 times. For every breath I take, my cat has taken 7 breaths. And so I was thinking, I wonder if that's relating to, how animals live for, well, one year of an animal's life is like 7 years of a human's life. And then I heard you mention on tour that animals actually have much higher oxidative stress than we do. So is Protandim something we can give to our animals to help them?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Animals do have higher levels of oxidative stress. They age more quickly, they die younger, but they get a lot of the same health issues that humans get as they age. So early on, people started giving their older dogs Protandim and doing before and after videos, these dogs that were having a difficult time walking, and then after just even 2 weeks on Protandim, they're running around like puppies again. I saw one of those videos today from a distributor here in Perth.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she had one of her old dog who was hobbling around, and after, I believe it was just 1 week, the dog was running around like there was nothing wrong. And so people started seeing that and posting these videos on YouTube about these dogs and how quickly they were improving. And it kind of caught on. And in the US, they now have a version of Protandim called Pet Tandem, which is specific for dogs. but there's no reason why you can't just give Protandim to your dogs. It's the same thing. And I do that with my dogs and have had great results with it as well. And the thing about dogs is they don't lie and they don't know what a placebo is. And oftentimes, the humans will see what's happening with the dog, and then they'll come back to you and say, well, gee, if that works so well in my dog, maybe I will try that human too.
Yeah. Oh, Dr. Mark, you're being so kind answering all these questions. I've just got a few more, if you don't mind.
Certainly.
Um, just, you know, some people may be on different medication, and we just want to find out, does Protandim interact with any other drugs in a
There,
negative way?
there have not been any proven interactions or anything that's been reported. There are a few caveats, and that is with Coumadin or warfarin, since Protandim is a plant-based compound, and the way that Coumadin and warfarin work is by inhibiting the vitamin K dependent clotting factors, and that those come largely from plants. There's the potential that Protandim could have an effect on the Coumadin, or the INR, which is the thinness of the blood. So it doesn't mean that it will, it's just a possibility. So if a person is on Coumadin or warfarin, they should have their INR checked when they start Protandim and probably 4 to 5 days later to see if they need to adjust the dose of the warfarin or the Coumadin. And they may need to check their INR more frequently for the first month until they get a stable level. Apart from that, there really aren't any other interactions to speak of. People who have cancer who are on chemotherapy or radiation therapy, it's not recommended to take Protandim because of a theoretical concern with chemotherapy and radiation therapy being toxic doses of oxidizing agents. Some oncologists feel if you take something that's potent in an antioxidant form, could that reduce the effectiveness of the therapy for the cancer? We don't know the answer to that. No study has been done to my knowledge looking at that. So I always recommend, if you're having chemo or radiation therapy, you should not take Protandim unless your oncologist says it's okay.
Okay. What about if you've had an organ transplant?
People who have had solid organ transplants, it's not recommended to take Protandim, again, for theoretical concern that can enhance the immune system. And if you've had an organ transplant, you're on an immunosuppressant drug. And could that theoretically cause a problem with rejection? We don't know the answer to that, but that's why we don't recommend it.
Sure. And those are just the exceptions, right? We very seldom come across those. Doctor, what if I'm a really healthy eater? I just eat, healthy, green, raw foods, all the good stuff. I don't drink any alcohol. I exercise every day. I live on water. I do all the right stuff. Do I really still need Protandim?
Well, oxidative stress is something that we all have. And eating a good diet will help, but it's not going to eliminate the problem. It's not going to cause the reduction in oxidative stress that Protandim can do. And so I think that, everybody should be applauded who tries to live a healthy lifestyle, make good choices with exercise, diet, and so forth. But I think Protandim gives you that additional edge that we all need. Because of the toxic environment that we live in, there are things that we just can't control for. Things that get sprayed on our foods, things that we breathe in, toxins that we're exposed to. And with that, you just need another level of protection. And that's what Protandim and Nerf2 activation, I believe, can do for people.
Fantastic. So you reckon they should take it for their whole life? Or is it something you can just take and, it's going to reduce your oxidative stress and it's going to stay down?
Well, you can take Protandim, and as I said, if you stop it, it's up to you. But about that first study that showed, the US study that showed a 40% reduction in oxidative stress in 30 days, that persists as long as you're taking Protandim. But if you stop taking Protandim, within 2 to 4 weeks, your oxidative stress levels will go back to what they were before. So whatever issue was going on in your body related to oxidative stress is likely going to go back to where it was prior to you taking Protandim. So yes, I believe that you should take Protandim lifelong, and that's certainly what I plan to do.
Awesome. Doc, the last question is this. You had such a successful cardiology practice. You were loving helping people, although it was, daunting seeing how many people were getting sick at young ages. But what made you walk away from that and pursue getting Protandim into the hands of people? What was it?
Well, it was a number of things. Certainly there have been changes in healthcare in the US that prompted a lot of it. Government control, insurance companies, hospitals controlling what doctors do, telling them how they had to take care of patients. That was one problem. Another problem was, as I moved more into the prevention mode, it became difficult to practice in an allopathic world where they're not interested in prevention. And I knew I wanted to move away from that. But moving into LifeVantage, I was able to touch so many more people and improve their health than I could possibly touch as a cardiologist, seeing a patient one at a time. So it's been a very rewarding experience to hear the commentary from people about the things that have happened to them as they've been taking this. Mm-hmm. And frankly, financially, it got to the point where LifeVantage was providing me a better income than my cardiology career. So it seemed like a no-brainer at that point what to do.
Fantastic. Well, Dr. Mark Gordon, we do hope you're going to come back to Australia. We have absolutely loved spending time with you. You are such a generous, gracious guy. We've honestly adored being with you and just learning so much from you. I am more convinced than I have ever been that I will get every person I come in contact with to at least look at what we have, because I am 100% sure that they all need it. And really, I know that that is what you've imparted to us here in Australia. So from all of us, we want to just say a massive big thank you. You really have made an impact on us. And I can tell you that the Aussies won't forget you. So when you're walking around in October at Global at our convention, and you feel somebody tap on the shoulder or maybe even jump on your back, know it's one of us Aussies. And we certainly won't forget what you've done for us here over the past week or so. So thank you so much. We wish you safe travels back home. Thank you also to your fiancée, Veronica, for being so gracious with us and allowing us to borrow you for so many hours. So have a great and safe trip back. And from all of us in Australia, Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi.
Okay, thank you so much.
Everybody, thank you, guests, for joining us. We appreciate your time. Thank you.